it's us, the Snark Crew, plus our extra special guest, Emma, who is always
Yes.
supporting and giving us all the kudos in the chat and bringing all of the receipts. And we're so happy to have her. We miss Amy. She's helping Santa tonight, so we're gonna do our best to continue
pimping Santa out.
She's pimping Santa out.
So yeah, I'm going to let the guest of honor go first. Live chat, you're incredible. I'm gonna pull the chat overlay over so y'all can see all the comments from all the channels populate on the video. And Emma, can you tell us a little bit about you and all whatever you want to say to everyone in the chat?
Hey y'all, this is so fun to be on this side of things. I'm usually the hype crew behind the keyboard, so this is fun. Thanks for having me. I'm Emma Olson. I live in Minnesota. I'm a stay-at-home mom to 2. I was in Beachbody for 3.5 years, and I left sorry, Cheryl. If you listen to our podcast, you know. I was a coach for 3.5 years, but I was within Beachbody for about 5.5. And so, yeah, I left officially fully this past May, and it's an interesting world outside of Beachbody. But Emily Favre was my upline, and then Emily Favre's upline is Ashlie Molstad. And so I'm excited to talk about this. I've had some personal experience with Ashlie, but I think that I'm too loud. I don't know if you can turn me down.
I did it a little bit, so we're gonna figure it out as we go. You're fine.
Cool. So yeah, I'm excited. I listened to all 3 of her podcasts, and this will be fun. So thanks for having me.
Happy to have you. Cheryl, do you want to go next, or Jen, or whoever wants to go?
You said Cheryl first.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, my name is Cheryl Spears. Everyone on here may know me by now. If you do not, I am the host of the Call Cheryl Hun podcast, where I empower former MLM Huns to share their story and be unapologetic about it. Right. I was in Beachbody for 8 years, and I only hit Emerald. Let me rephrase that. I was in Beachbody for 8 years, and I hit Emerald because my husband was always my first coach. And yeah, so that I'm basically here for the same reasons as everybody else, to make sure that we call out all the misinformation and the bullshit so that you all do not get scammed into an MLM like Beachbody. Go ahead, Jen.
Hello, everybody. I'm glad I could make it. Time zones are crazy.
Oh, it's so bright there, though.
That's because I have my ring light on. It would be dark if I had it off. It'd be dark. It's dark. My name's Jen Baruso. I am a former Beachbody coach, now certified personal trainer, size inclusive fitness and trainer. And I work with people to help them get out of the mindset that they were stuck in with Beachbody, the all or nothing. I have to kill myself in order for it to be a good workout and count. So we work through that. We ditch diet culture bullshit. And apparently I am angry and hurt because I share my story. Love it.
Yeah.
All right, Amber.
Hey everybody. You all know me. Was in Beachbody for 5 years. Got to diamond level as a coach, was almost at 2-star when it all fell out from behind me. My upline was I don't even think she still coaches anymore, at least not actively. She's kind of I guess, well, Ashlie really kind of followed in her first footsteps, I guess, with just not actively working the business yet still collecting a paycheck. But I see like a lot of kind of what like Emma's story, like me and Emma's story is so similar. because we had kind of similar uplines and like similar teams, just in the way they kind of operated. So I'm really excited to have her here and just hear her perspective and for her to share her story and help us really to educate and to help give people all the info that they can decipher themselves so they can make an educated decision on either completely just avoiding joining Beachbody or another MLM, or just helping them to leave. I mean, today I got another message that someone canceled their body account. So it's little by little every day we're making a difference, everyone. So
Yeah, and let me tell you the count that we're up to right now. Go ahead, BC, whatever you need to do. I'll just interrupt.
No, definitely interrupt. We're really excited that all of people who are leaving who find all of our accounts are messaging us and telling us they got out, and hope that it's I hope that these videos help people realize they're not alone for it not working or it being toxic or the disordered things going on behind the scenes, that there's better, more informed scientific help out out of Beachbody, and hopefully trying to point you in the right direction of professionals. I'm at least not them. There's some disclaimers in the description before Cheryl tells us the good news about how many people have jumped ship, but there's some important disclaimers about trigger warnings, the type of trigger warnings that we're going to hear in these podcast episodes. And to give you a little bit of what happened, Ashlie Molstad dropped another podcast, and so I was crafting one night, and I was like, I'll just listen. In the middle of that, I'm like, holy shit, I need to text the Snark crew because
I was
what is going
watching
on?
live when she said that. I was watching
and
with
Jen
her.
was and Jen and I are like, our brains are breaking right now. And not to be mean to Ashlie, it's very hard in my opinion. And we're gonna hear a ton from Emma, I hope. It was hard to process through everything in real time. And I was mostly like, oh my God, I'm going to keep coloring because my brain is breaking. And then like, oh my God, I can't believe she said that. So there's, if this stream may be too upsetting for you, definitely take care of your mental health. Hop out. We'd love a pity like, but definitely don't expose yourself if you think that it's going to be
Yeah.
too much.
And let's make sure we get those disclaimers in all of the descriptions.
Yes,
for the
they should be in
replays.
everyone's description.
There, right? Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, so both of them, the one that any advice that you're going to hear on this channel tonight is not licensed advice. So I'm just going to read the description again just so we have it verbally for everyone.
Yeah.
So there's a trigger warning. We will review a podcast that discusses mental health, suicide, miscarriage, infertility, misinformation, and unlicensed therapy advice. We're joined by Emma, and she's going to help like go through some of this as well because she has gone through some of the things and she was able to say, oh, this is what I learned. But us saying like, here's information that combats what Ashlie is saying is not us saying that. It's for informational purposes only. It's not a substitute for professional clinical advice, diagnoses, or treatment. Never ignore professional clinical advice in seeking treatment because of something you have read or heard on social media. And I'm going to double check that all of these disclaimers are in everybody's streams, but it's in my stream. And I just wanted to verbally say that out loud so no one is going to be caught off guard. So, yes. And yet, Cheryl, can you tell us some good news before we dive into the deep end?
So, this is from September to now because I have not included August because I have a separate highlight for that. But since September, we have helped 107 people leave Beachbody that have let us know, and that gives us 214 Success Club points.
Amazing. Amazing. That's awesome. Yeah, if
That's more
if
people
anyone
than I
feels the
helped
need
the
to
entire time. I was in Beachbody. Just so you know.
We love it.
Yeah.
We love it. Cheryl's our double diamond superstar Beachbody Exeter person now. So she's in charge. She's at the top of the non-cult pyramid, I guess. So we love it. We love it. We love it. We love it. I'm gonna
We
pull
love
up the
you in a
audio
non-cult
files.
way.
Yeah, let me pull up Ashley's files.
So I want to
Where-
say just briefly why I think that this is so important, because Ashley's a Beachbody coach, which we know. But also she did her own thing and became a life coach. And I have people within my family who are therapists. And so it is very important to me that therapists speak on therapy related things, and anyone that's not a therapist who is not licensed really understands the boundaries that they have. That I understand that for Ashlie, this is a marketing tactic for her. And I didn't think that this would be until I listened to the episodes. I genuinely thought when she was releasing this podcast that it was going to be her phasing herself out of Beachbody. But then when you hear her praising Beachbody, talking about the hi Carl, I'm the problem. It is me and us. So she is not phasing herself out, and not only is she not phasing herself out, she is giving Beachbody credit for saving her, for her suicidal thoughts. She is giving that the platform, and there's so much harm in that, because you know that my opinion, what she's going to do is then circle back and say, this saved me, this helped me. And that is so scary, because if you are having suicidal thoughts, you should be speaking to someone who is a professional to guide you through that, to a therapist. There's a suicide hotline that you can call. You should not hire a life coach or join an MLM. And so there's a lot of harm we're going to unpack here.
Amy, I'm for Amy, since she can't be with us. She shared the graphic in our group text, the life coach versus therapist. So I just want to read what is under life coach. So this is what a life coach is. And literally, I said this before, anyone can call themselves a life coach. Certifications are available. You can get it in a day. You focus on goals. You're supposed to focus on the future. You have clear structure, short term, no insurance coverage. And the therapist must have an advanced degree and license to practice therapy. Focuses on mental health, rooted in past and present. So again, life coach focuses on the future, not the past. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all.
Oh, Jesus.
So yeah,
And insurance covers therapy. They don't cover life coaches.
Yeah.
There.
Open with. So we didn't. Well, it was just kind of a rough day, so we didn't do fun intros. But it's also, I know we're snarking. It's kind of we want to treat it with care as we talk about this, because one, there's lots of things that the podcast brings up, and it's one after the other, and it's a lot of hard things, and it's a lot of misinformation to wade through. I like watching things that are hard with other people, so that there's some, everybody can help each other float a little bit and say like, oh, this is my experience and here's this. And a lot of times the snark crew will say, here is some information from a scientific website, or from like, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's not just our opinions. We're also going to say, these are some websites that you can go to for resources to find credible people to talk to if you have insurance and you're able to do that. I have the audio right here. I'm just trying to pull it up. Okay, so the first episode is the title is WTF is Insourcing. We're wondering the same thing.
Term.
Yeah. So
well, okay, so before we start, even I think it's important too that we talk about this, because if it was a one-off episode where she was talking about rewiring her brain and that was something important to her, like with proper disclaimers and her referring back to like, I'm not a professional in this, I'm sharing my experience, fine. But the entire purpose of her podcast is to teach you how to rewire your thoughts. And you are not licensed for that. Not only is that not in the scope of practice, which is, life coach, whatever, you need to really understand how trauma works, how the brain works, and she's not. And so that's why I think that this is so important, because it's the whole podcast premise. So there's going to be week after week her overstepping the boundary, and that's so dangerous.
And for the people that blindly follow her and don't listen to the truth, right? Like, I don't want to say it that way, but I used to be this person with Ashlie. Like, Ashlie wasn't even my coach, and I bought into her body positive badass course, right? So much so that it didn't set well with me, but I decided to buy the second one, right?
Yeah.
So
she's convincing,
like
Carl,
she's very, yes. I mean, and people who have followed Ashlie for years and have not seen her red flags and just like blindly go and do whatever she tells them to do, this is really scary. Really
and
scary.
I feel like a lot of also her like target audience now for her podcast is like Beachbody people.
Yeah.
So I just pulled up the Life Coach School, and this is from like the very first page. Your brain is the most powerful thing you have in the world. Everything you do and the results you create are all caused by your thoughts within the brain. When you learn to manage your mind, you'll be blown away at what you're able to create and how easy it is to build the exact life you've always wanted. The process is simple to learn and will create massive changes in your life faster than anything you've ever tried before. Are you ready to go all in on yourself? That's directly from the website.
So she's taking their concept, first of all.
Yeah. That's her intro, isn't it?
Well, I was going to say
close.
that's Robin stuff.
Isn't that her intro to her podcast?
Yeah. And the messing around with people's brains, I'm not a big fan of it when you really want to work with a licensed ethical therapist, because when you're dealing with some of these like NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, you want to work with an ethical licensed therapist to do it. And some of these MLM people cross over in like large group awareness training and how to like convince people and stuff. And it is very interesting listening to Ashlie, and we're going to pop up the podcast, but it's interesting listening to what she's saying, because one, if you're like struggling to come out of an MLM, or you've dealt with stuff, or you're still processing through it, listening to her say some of these pretty harmful things, it can be shocking if you don't have anybody else to talk to, someone who can point you in the right direction, because
I just want to say too, in order to get more information about the life coach certification through the school she went through with Brooke Castillo, you have to enter your email. Like, there's not a lot of information on the website.
Yeah, you
have to enter your email to get more. The pricing isn't on here. No, it's just one short page. Learn more.
That's them building their lead list.
Collection. Yeah, it's sketchy.
That's their lead list. It's behind, everything's behind like.
Yep.
That was my bad. I was opening iTunes. Okay. Again, another trigger warning. I know that I've said it. I'm going to say it again. There's going to be some very shocking things that Ashley's going to say, and I'm not overstating what I'm trying to say. If you have any sensitivity or triggers relating to trauma, please make a wise decision for yourself, because it was not a good surprise when I was listening to it, because I didn't think it was going to be this kind of podcast, especially when there's no trigger warnings in the podcast itself. I knew that there was going to be language in it. I didn't know that all the other stuff was going to happen. So Again, live chat, you're incredible, but in replay crew, if this is at the point where you need to hop out, that's okay. Take care of yourself. That's the whole point. Okay, let me see if y'all can hear. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear the deal. Can you hear that? No? Dang it. Okay, let me womp womp. Okay, let me add
And
background.
while you're doing that, I'm going to say
Yes.
to protect the consumer, which is what we're here for, right? Like, that is what we are screaming. To protect the consumer, there should be basic things. And that is disclosing things, trigger warnings, having disclaimers, and that would have been helpful, right? Anytime you mention abuse, neglect, anything, even using those terms, miscarriage, we have our brains are very smart, and they have protectors and managers that will, you hear a word and your brain remembers things that it is suppressed. And so let's try it out.
Yep. Hopefully y'all can hear it now. Let's see. Yes? No?
No.
No.
Play.
Dang it.
Hit play again.
Um,
No. No, ma'am.
dang it. I pulled it into the thing. What the heck's happening? Well, this is odd.
Is it in Chrome? That's my answer for
Yes.
everything. Is it in Chrome?
It's right here in the stream. Let's see. Let's try. Technical difficulties. We're besties, unfortunately. Let's see. Add a source. Let me try this. Okay, this should be on the desktop.
Well, while
now.
we're doing this, this YouTube video, y'all. If you haven't yet, these girls, I will tell you, I'm in a group chat with them. I'm very fortunate, and they do so much behind the scenes. Like, it is wild. So go give them a like. I know that that's somebody said that I was addicted to likes. I swear this is not why.
Hey, I
don't
appreciate
like mine. I don't care. I don't use my YouTube channel. But these people definitely deserve it.
Oh,
Go like Emma's too.
No, I don't care about any of that, really.
Send it to Carl.
Go to Emma's Instagram and follow her 12 days of tidiness ish.
Yeah,
challenge.
That's been fun. My house is
I have been doing
clean.
it last night. Like, I have been doing it like behind the scenes. Last night I was in the shower and I was like, what is the one thing that's driving me crazy in this bathroom? And I was like, the shower. We got a scrub mama.
Oh, I love
it's
those.
like a scrub daddy. And
but a little softer. She's a little softer.
It's a little softer. She's a little softer. But I just went to town on, you could clean your shower while you're in the shower. Like, why is it so hard for me to do it?
I don't know. I struggle with the same thing.
But I came out and it was bright white. I was so excited. I was like, yeah, Emma would be proud.
So proud.
All right.
I'm so glad you guys have been tidying because honestly, 20 minutes.
Yeah. What's the one thing that drives you crazy? That's what I say when I look at something. I'm like, what's the one thing that drives me crazy?
Yeah. You guys.
My husband's mess and I refuse to clean up after him.
No?
Okay, well, yeah. Now I have no scrubs stuck in my. Now I have no scrubs stuck in my head.
Can we sing on here?
Whoops. All right.
Yeah.
Should we read the manuscript like
I do on the legal streams? Oh my god!
But
could you use Spotify? Would Spotify work better? Is it iTunes?
Yeah, Spotify would work. I'm just trying not to give her more streams. Quit eking.
Oh, I get it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, streams isn't really going to do her any good if she's got a 2.4 rating on Spotify. Yeah. Just saying.
I could do an Ashlie impression. I'll go get some food and chew.
Oh my god, please don't. Okay, let's see.
We're not picking. We're not picking.
Hey, it's SNARKMAS.
Dang it.
I know, but you know.
The remove source. I don't know why I can't hear.
I'm going to create a planner while we listen to this because that
Okay.
calms me. Just so y'all know.
Let me just try Spotify. Darn it.
Yeah, just give her a listen.
Emma, did you get the digital version of the strength training journal that Cheryl made?
Yes. I
Do
have
you
to
like
get my
it?
Yeah, I have to I don't have well, my daughter has a tablet, but I don't have I need to get an iPad or something. I
You
feel
can
like.
download it on your phone too. I didn't tell anybody that.
Oh, cool. I mean, I
Oh,
looked
yeah.
at it, but I didn't
The In-Source
use it
podcast.
yet.
oh,
I can hear
yes,
it.
You can?
heard it.
And you might
Yeah.
be wondering,
This?
like a
Okay,
lot
let
of
me
people
rewind it.
did, what the hell?
Okay.
I didn't want people around
Yes.
me anymore who didn't like me for me.
You
And I was
stop.
finally showing up as me. And I knew if everyone else left, at least I'd still have me. And that was terrifying and incredibly freeing. And what I found is that the people that stayed or the new people that came into my life loved me. And I also loved me. I no longer needed the world to like and approve of me. I just needed to like and approve of me. I learned that there is no better expert out there on what I want and need than me. And that is the power of insourcing. Welcome back, or initially. I don't know. This is episode 1. So what the heck? I don't know. Welcome. Just welcome, guys, to the InSource podcast. And you might be wondering, like a lot of people did, what the hell insourcing is. I getcha. But it is just what you would think it is. It's the opposite of outsourcing. And the reason that I decided the name for this podcast was going to be insourcing is because I actually insourced it. I initially outsourced it, and I asked on social media and friends a few different options. What do you guys think about the podcast? And a lot of people were like, well, I don't really know what insourcing is. So I worry, people won't be able to they won't seek it out, or they won't care to try it. And I'm like, I just kept going back to, but this really does feel like what I am trying to teach, the art of insourcing. And so today's episode, I thought, episode 1, I did decide to name the podcast this. Episode 1, let me help you understand what the heck it is, So
literally yes. I mean, that is, you would want anyone to understand the title of your podcast. I'm not trying to be overly mean. And I know she's trying to start a conversation to lead it in. The fact that she is doing this and she's sharing her own take on the therapy she's received, and then she's saying that's insourcing, that makes me a little bit
Okay, let's
squirrely.
cut the bullshit. The name is terrible. The name is absolutely terrible. And it's so bad. Okay, it sounds like a recruiting company. It's so bad.
It is a business term. It has nothing to do with what she is. Yeah, it's a business
thing. And with that being said, on the, I think, 2nd or 3rd episode, she doesn't even call it the right name. She's like, welcome back to insourcing. Like, actually, your podcast isn't called insourcing, it's called insource, but it's okay. It's like you being like, hi, welcome back to Call Cheryl Honey. It's like, no, it's called Cheryl Hun. Like, you no. So.
Yep. I caught that too.
Can we also just say real quick, and so since Emma's going to be spicy, I'm going to be spicy. Yeah, she said that she was like, if nobody else is going to like me, then I'm going to go ahead and like me. Have we ever doubted that Ashlie likes herself?
Not once.
Well, literally on her social media, have you ever doubted that Ashlie likes herself?
She's really good at hiding if she likes herself or not.
Right.
I think she puts on a good face for sure.
Yeah.
I just I guess part of me is like, oh my gosh, as someone who doesn't really like themselves sometimes, I go through ups and downs, I really like connect with parts of her saying like, "Hey, figure out who you want to be on the inside." And like, Emma said it best on her live the other day when she was trying to say like, "Hey, not in a like F you kind of way, but like I really like myself and I want to be around people who like me too." And I understand that part, but not not in the way that Ashley's doing it for sure.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Starting from our first day on the planet, we are taught everything that we know.
The first day?
From how we're expected to behave, what boxes we should check, even down to how much and when we should be eating. Even though I feel like how much and when we should be eating is a very innate need. It's a basic human need. But over the years, we are taught to not listen to our bodies, that we can't be trusted.
Wait,
Right?
hold on,
We're
hold
taught what kind of job we should pursue, how to dress.
Jen's done already. She's about to
Actually,
burn that coloring
and Jen
book.
knows this. We are actually born intuitive eaters. We don't need to be told how much to eat. And actually, when we are told how much to eat, that's when food things happen with us.
Yep.
So that is, first of all, misinformation.
And again,
also,
this is a girl who says she teaches intuitive eating, or she was teaching. Like, it was. She knows who
with
it
her,
is.
she teaches intuitive. Get it right. The
Intentional
foundation
eating.
of what helped her how to do intuitive eating was doing the containers of Ultimate Portion Fix.
Mhm.
That's what helped her not overeat
Yeah, and
with
this is
intuitive
episode 1.
eating.
Hello, Amber. Welcome back.
Welcome.
Oh, Amber, we ain't even made it like 5 minutes into
We're
her
2
podcast
minutes and
yet.
25
Sorry.
seconds in, and we're
Oh,
all pissed
God.
already.
I was listening in the car.
I'll
I
be quiet.
was waiting for Peyton to get out of practice.
All right. Oh my God.
I'll be
Married. What to look like, what goals to go for. We are essentially taught that everybody but you knows best what works for you. And some of this stuff is useful, right? I look at my kids now. If any of you are moms, you've seen it. We knew absolutely nothing when we came to the planet. Like, I look at my kids and something that we
When
do
we
every
came
day,
to the planet.
What was this, Xenu? Like, what's going on?
What about crawling, walking, talking? They learn all of that from being modeled, but we don't have to teach them how to put one foot in front of the other. They learn that on their own.
Yeah.
But continue, Ashley.
But continue. Yeah, if y'all are just coming in, we're only 2 minutes and 51 seconds into the podcast, so you haven't missed anything basically.
Welcome.
Yes,
I can
welcome.
tell you the last time I colored, I think I was like 10, so this is a lot for me.
Yeah,
I should get
I'm
my-
coloring on my
Welcome.
iPad, so. Oh.
in our sleep, brushing our teeth. But it's actually a learned skill. It, like, you have to learn how to like rotate the toothbrush in your hand to get all the cracks of your teeth, and like what pressure to do and how to do it without drooling all over your place, all over yourself. And then that you're supposed to spit it out and rinse with water, and that you do this a couple times a day. And it's a whole thing.
Are you supposed to rinse
And
after you brush
we
your
take that all for granted, but that
never
is
mind.
how we've essentially learned everything
Nicole,
in life.
yes.
Like, we didn't know anything, and that is why there are so many different belief systems and different walks of life and way to be and think and whatever, because of everyone else's upbringing and what they were exposed to. If it was not based on our thinking, if our thoughts weren't the most important thing, we would all believe the same, right? We would all be the same political party, we would dress the same, we would like the same people, like it would just all be the same, and it's not. Because
We
our
would be in a
brains
cult.
are our superpower.
We'd be in a cult. We'd be in Beachbody. Oh wait, we're not anymore. Oh my God.
We would be in a cult.
No, we love it. We love it. We love it. We love it. We
Go
love it.
for
I
it.
just like some of the generalizations she makes based off of like small things that don't really turn into like actual generalities.
Thoughts
It's
or,
just
like,
yeah.
Well, she's like trying to sound like profound, like
Yep.
finding motivation in the most like menial sort of ways, like whatever. Like, I'm just brushing my teeth and thinking about what I'm gonna make for lunch. Like,
Yeah.
It's not that difficult.
not that hard.
Man, I think it sounds like she's trying to gear up for a logical like platform to say the bullshit she's about to say, and it's just a weak start because you're just like, are we
Yeah,
getting
it's like
pranked right
this.
now?
You're like, okay, and then it's like,
Oh yeah. Then it's bad. It's bad.
A lot of the stuff that we know and taught are useful, and they're stories that we want to keep, right? Stuff that has built us up, stuff that keeps us alive, stuff that keeps our teeth clean and hygienic, right? But some of the patterns that we were exposed to or things that we were told over and over again are bullshit, and it's just keeping us weak and holding us back. But because we're never really taught how much of life really is just created in our brains, that we are the writer, producer, director of our own experience, we're never really taught that. So we don't trust ourselves. I can't tell you how many clients I get on the phone with, and I'm like, well, what do you like? And they're like, I don't know.
What clients? Is she talking about Beachbody, or does she have actual people who pay her money?
No, I think
to
she's
tell them
talking.
stuff?
I think this is her trying to convince herself that she is
she
the
has
main
clients.
that she's the main character of her own life, and
well,
it's not
she
translating.
ended that contract with whatever company she was with. I'm pretty sure it was with her uncles. Total nepotism, probably. This is my opinion happening there, but it's like she has no clients. She is so full of crap. None.
Yeah.
She was charging people. It was like it was $145, $200 an hour.
What?
To speak with her, and it is.
I'm undercharging.
Yeah, it is. Yes, you are. And the therapy is usually less than that. So.
What?
Yeah.
I guess like I keep getting shocked, but I'm like I still am shocked by
Well,
Ashlie Molstad every day. Oh,
well, I mean,
God.
when you sign up and you ask for coaching through the life coaching school, you can apply. It's like $297.
Oh my God. Wow.
Checked
Again.
in with me to see what even my hobbies are. And then they start judging themselves for not having hobbies because, of course, society says you should have hobbies, right? It's like all this looking out and looking sideways and comparing yourself to what the person next to you is doing and what your mom might say and what your in-laws are going to think and all of that.
Is she just using hobbies as an example of things like, oh, I don't do that, and then other people are like pressuring her? Because like I don't really give a shit if anyone has a hobby. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't.
The only thing that I don't care if you do. I just with my kids, it's like I would like you to be involved in something outside of the house to get experience outside of the house, to meet people, to have different viewpoints, to try different things. And if you don't like it, try something else. Like today, my teenager's like, I think I'm gonna try out for volleyball in the spring. I was like, sweet. I love volleyball. And if, what happens if you don't make the team? He's like, I tried. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think those are cool. I think like being involved in like a group or an organization and being able to get skills and stuff like that is great. I'm just saying like, oh my gosh, you don't have like you're not a part of a book club, you don't have a stamp collection, you don't paint, you don't, I don't know, collect flowers. Like,
are you judging people? Yeah, I mean, like she's judging people for not having a hobby. That's what I don't.
Yeah.
Is it?
I don't
like,
care what you do on a Wednesday.
No, I think she was. Ashley's judging people for having hobbies because she thinks they've been told they have to have hobbies, so that's why they have them.
Holy,
it's not.
Okay, see, I completely.
Amber, and my
Either
hobby
way.
is.
What'd you say, Amber?
What?
Sorry.
My hobby is plants.
Oh, we love that.
There you go.
Baking.
I'm mostly like, yeah, and you're a great cook. Y'all definitely like drop some hearts in the chat for Amber's new hair because it's a whole moment. We love it. Heck yeah.
Yes, it is.
For sure.
A mess right now. Because
even a mess, it looks really great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, I actually wait. Hold on.
Yep.
This is important. I just learned this. Instead of asking your kids, "How does it look?" you can ask, "How does it feel?"
Ooh.
Yeah.
So Amber, how does your hair feel?
Oh gosh, it feels so much better now that I cut all the dead ends away. Because I will say, I had COVID in September, and I've lost some hair like around my hairline and stuff. So I was hoping, like the bangs would kind of help camouflage that. Because I can admit that, unlike Autumn, who wears clip-on bangs, I still believe that those are clip-on bangs.
That's not why I got bangs.
Carol, your bangs are incredible.
Because
You already had bangs.
Yeah.
When I met
well,
you.
I
I got it from
I
you.
need Botox. I need Botox.
Anyways, how does it feel? Continue.
It
I love
feels,
that though.
Amber, I think you
It
look
feels
like
great to be on again.
Marilyn Monroe-y. It's very Marilyn Monroe-y.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah, I could probably do my hair like that. It would just
Yeah, you could.
Yes.
like pin it and stuff. I do have red
Mhm.
lipstick on, so maybe on next live I'll do my hair and
Heck yeah.
Make stuff.
Thank you,
Love it.
Nicole.
Know what we want, like, dream for, and desire, we stay small. And when we stay small, we're easier to control. And that is the way that the world likes us, because when we're easier to control, we feed the system, we put money into it, especially when it comes to, body insecurities. That is a multi-trillion-dollar industry, the diet industry.
You're in it.
And cellulite
You're
was never
in
a
She's in
problem
it.
until someone decided, hey,
And
You're in it,
she's
ma'am.
over exaggerating. It's a lot, but it's not multi-trillion dollars.
It's brilliant.
I feel like Ashlie takes her medicine and then she just goes on these rants and she doesn't remember anything she says in any of these podcasts whatsoever. Because remember, Cheryl, when we did when's my episode coming out, Cheryl, on the podcast? Because
Actually, I think it's next week.
Do you remember
Amber's
what you
podcast. I don't think she remembers anything she said, to be honest. The whole time I'm like, what is wrong with Amber? Like, Amber is, y'all will understand. It's like either Amber doesn't like me or like something's going on with Amber. And I should have just paused the podcast and I should have just said, let's do this later. But at the end, I was like, Amber, did you take your medicine before you got on the podcast? And she was like, yeah. As a kite.
One time I recorded a
Ours
podcast
is really
with my
chill.
friend. I recorded a podcast with my friend Lindsay, and I had coffee, and then right after I had a drink, and I was on antidepressants at the time. And
Oh,
that was
Lord.
not a good combination because I recorded an entire hour-long podcast and I blacked out. I did not remember it. And I had to the next day say to Lindsay, I was like, literally, I don't remember recording the podcast. And like, thank goodness I didn't get behind a car or anything. So
Yeah.
warning to all y'all, don't mix things. Okay. And then
Well,
especially
Amber's
don't
is-
record the podcast.
This is just
I didn't even
an FYI, a public service announcement. Amber's podcast is very good. Her interview is very good. She is very chill. It's a whole vibe, just so y'all know.
It's just me. Listen, it was at like we were at like 2:30 in the afternoon on a Sunday. That's
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
that's
It's
my
perfectly
Prime
fine.
time.
chill out time.
No,
you know,
hey, I
wait
told you
to listen.
already.
You know what I
No,
mean?
yeah, I have. Look, you do you, boo. I'd do it too if it didn't make me hungry, happy, sleepy the whole entire time.
Oh my gosh. I can't wait to listen, Amber and Cheryl.
Yeah.
cream that would combat cellulite. And then it's like, oh, I guess I shouldn't have cellulite. Let's buy the cream, right? And so it's like all those little things add up, and we don't realize that we're thinking thoughts or that we're being exposed to things that are creating our internal belief system. We just think that we're looking at the world objectively, and this is what it is. I am fat, therefore I am disgusting. These
What? I'm sorry. I should have also put a trigger warning for fat phobia, but I forgot that this part was in there. I should have just said Ashlie Molstad as a trigger warning because most of y'all know what he says.
Yeah.
As a blanket statement, like
Oh,
Yeah.
that immediately be prepared for just like trigger warnings and
Listen, she's not necessarily wrong that the messages that we receive oftentimes become the beliefs that we have about ourselves. But
Yes.
Yeah.
it feels like her argument or her perspective is falling on the ears of people who she is manipulating and who she is putting into that. And here's why I left Beachbody, because I kept saying I'm body positive, I'm not fat phobic and all of these things, right? Which I truly believe that was in alignment with me. But then I would enroll people into this MLM that recommended side-by-side photos, that recommended portioning your food, that recommended thinking that you were a better human when you're smaller. And so I could
Mhm.
never fully stand behind my messaging because I was putting people into the ring of fire. If I was saying, and Ashley's done this on Body Positive Badass, she's recruiting the people who have disordered
Yep.
eating. And then
Yeah.
she puts them in there. She's like, I'll help you, which she's not able to do because she's not licensed or certified to do that. And then they wonder why this was triggering for them. You just put them in a triggering environment. Of course, that is
Yeah.
how our
Yeah.
brains are wired. So it's falling on the ears of people who shouldn't be hearing this message because you are literally handing them the tools to stay sick.
Yes.
Yep. I would have more
You're
respect
right.
for her if she had said, I spent a very long time participating in diet culture and being a part of the problem, and now I'm trying to change, and here's a few things that led up to me deciding to get deeper and deeper into Beachbody and to all this other stuff. It would have been different if she had said, um, you know, it's me, hi, I'm the problem, and I'm,
It's me. Yeah.
yeah,
But you'll never
and
hear her say that. You'll never hear her
She
say
yeah.
that
said that.
because
She has said that once. She said it
Oh.
Well,
once in a
and
Q&A, and I messaged her. I have the DMs. I will read them to you.
uh-huh.
Emma is the queen of the DMs and the
Yes, she is.
and all of the things.
So Ashlie went she did a Q&A. She was recommending Body Positive Badass at the time, like the first round.
Mhm.
And people
Yep.
said how the question was, how can you recommend Beachbody and like be anti-diet culture but still recommend Beachbody? Great question. So I asked Emily, I was like, hey, how is she doing this? Because she's kind of making Beachbody look bad. And I was Beachbody coach at the time. So Emily said, I don't know, ask Ashlie. So I did. This was January 8th, 2021. I said, hey, Ashlie, I'm a leader on Emily Favre's team. And a few of my personally sponsored coaches had reached out a bit concerned after hearing your view on the morals of Beachbody's marketing and tools. They are unsure how to navigate recommending Beachbody for their own businesses and still consider themselves anti-diet. Any advice would be so helpful. She said, when did you hear my views and what made them concerned? I said, from your Q&A yesterday. It was concerning because by saying you don't align with Beachbody because you're anti-diet and are taking the route of intuitive eating, it makes others believe Beachbody is diet focused. Many of our coaches and clients look up to you, and it's confusing for us to now get questions from our teams and clients wondering if what they are recommending is harmful and restrictive. She saw the message and
And
blocked
never
me.
responded.
What?
Hey,
How
Ashley,
did
if
she
you're
do
watching
that?
this, I thought you didn't block anybody.
Oh
So
yeah,
I said,
she's
Emily,
yeah.
I sent a screenshot and she was like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what she's doing, but she's making us all look bad. And that's when they had a falling out. So I asked her, and I was pissed at the time because I had multiple coaches who were like, people are looking up to her. I have clients who are watching her who are saying Beachbody is in diet culture because it is. So then she doubled down on it and then retracted her statement because her paycheck went down, is my opinion.
Of course. Yeah.
well, and that's the thing. She's so like wishy-washy. Like, earlier this year she was all very anti-Beachbody. She like slammed them on that podcast with Colleen. Like,
Yep.
absolutely trashed them. And then she like chilled out for a little bit, and then she just like dove right back in after she went to Summit, and she was all fired up again to get
For
back
2
going.
weeks.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
For
did
2
she ever
weeks.
really? Did her and Shannon's team take
Ever,
off like
like-
they wanted? Remember?
Locking
Locking
arms
arms?
with Shannon.
I don't
Okay.
this is what I think. I think that they put a lot of time into recruiting at that point because they felt like they saw their numbers. They saw that they were failing and they tried and they didn't necessarily find their next Emily Favre and they said this is a waste of time. Let's go do our own thing, and they aborted mission.
Yep.
And that's not uncommon, right? We see
Yep.
this happen a lot.
Mhm.
Yep.
So anyways, I did ask her and she blocked me.
So Emma, I'm really interested to find this out. I know that we need to get back to the stream, and I'm sorry everybody, but so what happened? Like we just saw today that a big coach on Emily's team or Ashley's team left, right?
Mhm.
So, I mean, eventually Ashley's team is going to crumble, right?
Yes.
But she has
Yeah.
Emily underneath her. So, how does that help her?
So she receives about 10% of the cycles that Emily receives because of the team
Okay.
cycle bonuses. So
Okay.
as long as Emily is receiving team cycle bonuses, Ashlie will receive 10% of that because it's the
Hmm.
matching bonus that is received.
Okay.
And then her stars, like if she was still, depending on her star diamond, she would get
Hmm.
quarterly bonuses. I don't think, from the last that I've heard, she's not even a star diamond currently. And so she's not getting, you need to be 2-star diamond to get the cycle bonuses. And with her latest coach leaving, she was a leader on the team. I don't, all of her OG coaches are leaving. And so I don't, her paycheck will eventually crumble.
Mm.
But
Wow.
Emily she's getting 10% of what Emily cycles for Emily.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
That sucks,
Thoughts,
man.
right? So the world likes us to be small and easier to control because when we don't know our value and our worth, we don't demand more of ourselves or the systems or the people around us, right? But I want to introduce you to the concept in this podcast, just the idea that maybe they're wrong. Maybe there is nothing wrong with you. Because what if the problem isn't that you don't know what you want to do with your life, but that you think you should? What if the problem isn't that your parents failed you? It's that you believe they should have been different. That was for me, right? Actually, all of these are me. I did spend a lot of my life thinking that I should know what I want to do, that my parents should have treated me better. Well, my mom specifically, that my body was the problem, right? But what if your body is not the problem? It's just always that you've thought it was, because the truth is our thoughts control everything. Every single thing in our life comes down to our thoughts. The issue.
Oh, okay. I know I'm supposed to probably let it keep going. I don't think everything in life comes down to our thoughts. I'm as someone who like believes in like very broad things sometimes, or I initially am drawn to like, does this rule apply to everything? I love it. I know that some things don't. So like if I and I don't know what you think about that, Emma, or other Snark crew members. What I don't think that everything in life comes down to your thoughts. I think some things are important in how you are like thinking and speaking to yourself in some instances, but I don't think everything does, because if that's the case, then what happens when you're the victim of something? That doesn't play out then.
Yeah.
I just want to say, like, I feel like it's a very privileged thing to say that, oh, the only thing you have to like worry about is negative thoughts in your
Yep.
life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And any other aspect, you're completely fine. Ashlie just
Yeah.
bought a brand like $2 million home, and very privileged. So like it, for me to say, oh, if I just speak better about myself, you know, when my life is fairly cushiony at the moment, then that's a privileged thing to say. And I can't apply that to somebody else who lives in low income housing, who doesn't have a car to get them to a job where they can make money, you know, doesn't have
Yeah.
money to food on their table. So like they could tell all those same things that I say to myself to themselves, and it still wouldn't make a difference, because it's not
She's
just about
also able-bodied. You know, she's
Yeah.
an able-bodied white woman in America.
Yep.
So the
She's
fact
so
that your
she's so
thoughts,
close.
It's very like
sorry, Jen.
bootstrap mentality, like pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you know, like that sort of thinking. It's just the
Yep.
toxic positivity is
She
just
keeps mentioning the systems. It's like, you were so close. Say the patriarchy, say white supremacy, say capitalism. Those systems do affect people negatively. Not necessarily upper class, skinny white women, but it does affect people, and they're
Yeah.
a problem, and they're broken. Like,
And
she's
what I've
like
learned in
this close.
therapy is something to me could feel very large and important. And that same thing could feel very small to DC or to Cheryl or to Amber or to Jen.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean just because their perception of what I'm going through might seem small, to me it's big. And so that means it matters and it holds weight. And so when you tell someone that you are just a product of your thoughts, when you start to have the thoughts, well, this feels big to me, you're continuously invalidating their experience and their feelings. And what we learn as parents is the first thing that you do is you validate a child.
Yeah.
And that is what she's doing the opposite of, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah. That's a super good way to put it.
Never been any of the things that have happened to us, right? The weather, when you're like, oh, I had a bad day because it rained the whole time. Okay. No, it rained. That's a thing. The abuse. And this one, there are some like what most people on the planet would agree are.
Pause. Before we get into this, first of all, weather. Yeah, the weather, if you're maybe sitting inside your $2 million house and it rains, okay. If you're homeless and it rains and you're freezing cold and you haven't eaten food,
day.
It's a big thing.
That's a bad thing. Yeah.
It's your circumstance. I get. There are people who are really struggling with their thoughts and are in a negative headspace where it rains and it's like the worst thing in the world. It's the worst thing in the world to them that day. Okay. And so for her to then equate the weather and it being a minor inconvenience to abuse, which is what we're going to hear, is so hurtful and harmful. It's really sad because I fear for the people who are listening to this, who are going through something really very real, and they are going to feel the effects of this.
Yeah. If you're the major trigger warning right now, because it is, Melissa's right, it's going to start going downhill now. So if you in any way, shape, or form cannot handle discussions about trauma, suicide, abuse, don't listen. Buckle up.
Yep.
Horrific things, really negative. Most of us would agree, yes, this is bad. And abuse falls into that category, right? And so I'm not here to convince you that abuse isn't bad or that trauma that's happened to you isn't bad. But when you say, oh, why did this happen to me? This is so hard. I don't know what's going on, right? It's very weak. It's not empowering. And I want to get you to an empowered place.
Okay. I'm gonna let Emma speak. It's the way that she said it, the tone of her voice, the actual words that she said. It's like, it's awful on top of awful on top of awful. So Emma, take it away.
Being a victim is not weak. Okay, so I would first like to acknowledge that she's victim shaming. If you are a victim of abuse, you are not weak. I have been in an physically abusive relationship, and I can tell you that in the most vulnerable moment of my life, I was still not weak. Okay, and so for her to minimize abuse and to say it is just your thoughts is so hurtful, and it is not weak.
One of the strongest people that I know was a domestic violence survivor. And that right there pisses me off.
Yeah.
It's the example is it's overstated and generalized. So for you, abuse is bad, period. So she could have continued with the weather example, and I would have maybe been more on board with what she was going with. But when you say abuse, neglect, abuse, that is bad across the board.
I feel like as a DV and an SA survivor, I feel like she's trying to tap into that space, because what did Beachbody teach a lot of us was that you share everything so you can connect with people. And
now they're telling people to niche down.
Use your traumas and your tragedies as a way to help motivate you, to build you up and take you to the next level in your life. Because that's I mean, that's kind of the messaging that I was getting when I was a Beachbody coach and doing all these life coaching sort of like listening to like the webinars and stuff and paying for the trainings, and a lot of it was like victim blamey, victim shamey, and like, are you going to continue to be a victim? Are you going to get over it? Again, with the pull yourself up by your bootstrap mentality. It's just it's gross. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Because she's looking for her next like Emily Favre. That's why it's her ultimate goal.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm just like, it's hard to wrap my mind around the lack of like the standard of care for her audience and the lack of awareness. But again, I don't know how unaware she is, because we've seen people like Emma try to speak up, and all of y'all in the Snark crew have tried to speak up. You all get blocked, and they read it and they block it, and so it's like, I'm still like, it's still hard to. I mean, obviously, this is only the second time I listened to Ashlie, but it's like, I don't even have words to say because it's just hard to listen to it, and
So I sent that quote to a therapist. Okay. And I said, "Can you tell me what your initial thoughts are about this quote, which is by someone who is not a therapist or qualified to speak on mental health?" And the therapist said, "Sounds like someone trying to counter learned helplessness in a very unskilled way." So I Googled learned helplessness because I am not a professional and I've never heard of that term before. So learned helplessness is a condition in which a person suffers from a sense of powerlessness arising from a traumatic event or persistent failure to succeed. It is thought to be one of the underlying causes of depression. So she's essentially, it's a mental state in which an organism, I almost said orgasm. Sorry. Very different term.
We're like teenage
Organism
boys.
forced to bear adversive stimuli or stimuli that are painful or otherwise unpleasant, becomes unable or unwilling to avoid subsequent encounters with those stimuli, even if they are escapable, presumably. So essentially, it's like intrusive thoughts. Like, how many of us have gone through postpartum and you're literally walking down the stairs with your child and you're like, what if I fell down the stairs and landed on the child and hurt them? Those thoughts come in. Those thoughts come in without me choosing them, right? And there are people on medication because their brain has an imbalance that have intrusive thoughts. And so it's not as black and white as you just think different things.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm
And for someone who has never been able to go to therapy, like, if you look up to Ashlie and you hear her saying this stuff and you're like, and you have had some of the similar things she's talking about, and Ashley's in that kind of authority position in your mind of like, she's saying all the things, that can put that person in a really dangerous spot, because like it or not, we have lots of points of contention with Ashlie, but some people still really like her, so she still has a pretty large audience. So I don't know. It's just
me, I had a lot of trauma growing up, as most of us do, and trauma is sort of a trigger word for some people, and they think, no, I had a wonderful childhood. If you have negative self-talk at all, you have childhood trauma. If you are a human walking this planet, you have childhood trauma. And I'm not talking, it doesn't have to be physical abuse, it doesn't have to be abuse of any kind.
And again, as I'm not trying to point this about me, I'm saying as someone who struggles with their mental health and I have some negative self-talk, y'all kind of are aware of that. When I stream, sometimes I'm in a better place than not. Hearing that, it's like, oh my God, what do you mean? But I know that that's not always the case, what she's saying. But if someone, I don't know, I'm having a hard time articulating it because she's so upsetting.
Yeah. 70% of people have childhood trauma. I looked it up, found research. 70% of people have childhood trauma. So for her to say every person who has negative self-talk, again, overgeneralization, has childhood trauma. You might be a person who had an exceptional childhood. Your parents checked all the
Right.
boxes, and then you had a traumatic experience happen in college when you were 21, 22. And then you have negative self-talk after that. So it's, again, an unskilled person who is not educated in this space, spreading misinformation, overgeneralizing, and it can cause harm. Because another thing that can happen is if you're like, oh, I have negative self-talk, I have that. What did my parents do? What happened in my childhood? You start to point the finger at your parents.
Yep. And they may not have done anything in terms of the trauma that Ashley's claiming had happened. They might not have been responsible for any of that. So it's just it's dangerous to, again, be spewing this without any qualifications, or I don't know.
And who she's one of the most successful people I know, and she gave the story about how her dad used to brag to his friends about what a good soccer player she was, and it made her feel like she has to achieve in order to get love. Now, when you're little, you're not consciously aware of this, but that is what her brain decided, right? It's exposed to a thought. I do something, I perform well, I get affection from my parents. Oh, I love affection. That feels good. Let me continue performing well. And if this thought goes unchecked, it spirals out of control, and then you become worthless until you have achievements. That is trauma, right?
So no,
it's never been.
it's praise versus encouragement. So there's a whole, you can Google this and learn about this, but it's like telling your child, good job, good job, good job, good job. And that's praise. And then encouragement is they're stacking blocks. And instead of when they get the block, you say, you stacked on top of the other block. Look how tall your tower is. Your tower is getting so tall. A prince could live in that castle with like, that's encouragement. And so what she's saying is that that's trauma, which some people might perceive that as traumatic. Fine. But what she's saying is that's traumatic or trauma, when really what she's talking about is praise versus encouragement. And it could be a secure attachment thing where that's completely different as well, or can be different too. And that's the thing. It's such a case-by-case basis that when she overgeneralizes, she doesn't know. It's misinforming the consumer.
Yep.
Any of those things that have happened to you, the weather, the abuse, the trauma, the passed over promotion, the shitty boss you had, the miscarriage, the divorce, all of those things are all just circumstances. And circumstances are things that we can every human on the planet would be able to agree to, right? We could prove it in a court of law. And
I'm Googling what a circumstance is.
I don't know if she's already said it. I kind of like glazed over a little bit because it's just, man, it's wild listening to this again. She's about to say something about a neutral circumstance, and she's about to say,
we pick up new things every time we re-listen.
Yeah. So a circumstance is a fact or condition connected with or relevant to an event or action. Okay, continue.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's why I know abuse isn't. It is a circumstance. It is a neutral circumstance. And when I first heard this, I thought that's crazy.
That's
who
not
said
right.
That? Who told her that? Like, when you first heard it, from who? Cite your source, first of all.
Literally,
who freaking said that?
I'm Googling that. Abuse is a neutral circumstance.
Like, where is she getting this shit from? I don't.
She's like, when I first heard that, who told you that? Your therapist, life coach, like.
My current circumstances, I don't understand where the fuck.
TM said the neutral circumstance bit is from a life school podcast.
It is.
Oh my god.
Episode 187 from the life school. Yeah. Neutrality of circumstances. It says the main idea behind this practice is that life presents us with neutral circumstances and we choose to interpret them positively or negatively, which creates a full range of human experience. On the first session in this series, we're taking a deep dive into the neutrality of circumstances and why anything that happens in this world is neither inherently good or bad. I explain why you must develop the skill of being able to interpret any situation that comes up and the immense benefits that it can expect as a result.
No.
Wow.
Oh my god.
She really isn't coming up
So-
with any momentary.
No,
No.
she's legit Rachel Hollis. Like,
None of
she's
it.
Rachel Hollis. She's a Rachel
Oh
Hollis
my
wannabe.
god.
What
Oh,
original
there's a-
thought that cute little head hurts.
You can read the episode transcript.
Oh boy.
Wow. We write that
Dang.
podcast down.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh my god.
And the reason that it's important that you know this is because I want you to see how truly powerful your brain is. And because there are people out there abusing others in the world, not every single human on the planet could agree that abuse is bad, right? And now,
What?
Excuse me.
I don't understand.
Did she really just say what I think she just said?
I'll rewind it 15 seconds or 30 seconds. Let's see.
and that is why I know abuse isn't, it is a circumstance, it is a neutral circumstance. And when I first heard this, I thought that's crazy. But it is. And the reason that it's important that you know this is because I want you to see how truly powerful your brain is.
Okay, so I'm reading the episode transcript from this life coach episode. There are 44 murders that happen every single day in America, and that's a stat I got off of Google. So we're just going to go with it. It may be more, it may be more, it may be less, but let's just say let's just say
I'm gonna Google.
What?
At least you said
Google it. It's got to be true.
I'm Googling it.
44
God.
murders happen. Now, most of us are not horrified every single day about the 44 murders. In fact, most of us are not thinking about the 44 murders every single day. So most of us would say that the murders that happen in the day we're pretty neutral about. Okay, we understand that murder happens. We understand we can't control all of the murder in the world, and we feel pretty neutral on a day-to-day basis about murder. And the reason why is because we're not thinking about it consciously. Now, if we were given details about I don't know if I want to say this. There would have been trigger warnings. There should have been in this.
Yeah.
9/11. They talk about 9/11.
Oh my gosh.
so. This is her mentors. She listens
I
to
look
their
at people who are
podcast all the
disabled.
time.
This is what it says. I look at people who are disabled, people that have horrendous experiences in their life. In my opinion, things that have happened to them that I think are incredibly awful, they have a very positive attitude about it. Two people can have the exact same experience, and one of them can use it to have a positive, wonderful life, and one can use to have a horrible life. And how do you explain that is if the event itself is a horrible thing, you can't. So you have to talk about the term circumstance.
Oh my god.
They are just facts. So yes, this
the
is
difference in outcomes is healing, and like, am I right? I mean, that's the difference in outcomes.
But also, like, to say, like, that person dealt with that trauma better because they're happy and
Yeah,
making a lot of money and, you know, have a family and look fine doesn't mean that their circumstance was neutral when they got abused. So that,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how to articulate it, but like Ashley spreading this shit and this other life podcast doing the same thing. I mean, maybe I'm like taking it the wrong way. Maybe they're not saying it in a great way, but I don't agree with that. And like, even if it takes you longer to work through, not work through, but like
there shouldn't be a
you
limit
have
on how you
Because
heal. There shouldn't be
how
a
fast
limit
you
on how you
yeah.
work through anything.
it feels so dismissive, right?
Yeah.
Like just very dismissive
Yeah.
all around. Because I think being with the dismissiveness, especially with like these life coaching sort of shady people, is they're looking for people that they can gaslight easily. And if they're just more accepting of like the dismissiveness and being complacent and accepting that, oh, maybe I am the victim and maybe I should just move on, then it's
Yeah.
oh my God, it's
So,
Yeah, I mean,
and
you know, I think for me to take back like the way I said is the difference about how you heal. Like for me, when you see the two people, like when you see two people that maybe go through the exact same experience, but they end up having a completely different life, right? It's I'm not saying that it's like one person healed from it and the other person didn't, but it's the way that I'm not even going to say like it's your thought process, right? Like for me, I had a pretty crazy childhood. Okay? Like pretty crazy. And I remember when I was 18 years old, I moved out with my friends, right? If I would have moved out with the wrong group of friends, Cheryl wouldn't be the Cheryl she is today. You see what I'm saying? Like I was able to, and my mom's even said that because my mom was like, if you would have moved out with the wrong group of friends, you would have probably ended up being a drunk or some type of drug addict, to be honest.
yep.
Right. But I moved in with the right group of friends and yeah, we partied, but my friends kept me on track and brought me back down to earth, would call my mom if I got out of line. Right. Like that's what I mean by the difference.
Yeah.
Because
Well, and
I could have been on two separate paths, but I was blessed enough to have the path that I took.
and
The people
really,
surrounding me.
I mean, Ashley's trying to equate it to like circumstance, but really
Yeah.
there is decisions that we make too.
Right.
That
Right.
and sometimes we make bad decisions, and with those bad decisions comes us learning from them and
Right.
just learn not doing that again and being better from it. Like
Yeah.
it's
And there's a lot to speak to that. There's so many to making a decision. Made a decision in a split second, and it was you were in fight or flight mode, and you made a decision, and it was the wrong one. But in the moment, that's
Right.
what felt the most safe. Like there
Right.
are protectors and managers that are wired in our brain, and it's so circumstantial, like depending on the exact circumstance. But
Yeah.
like Melissa said, two people can go through the exact same experience, and one can have trauma from it and one cannot. I mean, and it has
Yep.
nothing to do with how weak or strong the person is. And
Nope.
I go back to my sister and I a lot because my sister and I lived the same childhood, and I have moments that I recall and I perceived as traumatic, and she didn't. And we were going through the exact same thing, and we had we were different ages at the time, so our nervous system was wiring at a different time. Like there's so many factors that play into it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And because there are people out there abusing others in the world, not every single human on the planet could agree that abuse is bad, right? And now here's the other thing. I'm going to show you that your thoughts lead everything in your life, but then I also want you to see that you get the choice to continue choosing those thoughts. For me, I'm going to continue choosing abuse is bad, but there is still power in
Abuse is bad in any situation. Abuse is bad.
Abuse is bad.
I think everyone agree.
Well, let's think just like the most generous interpretation.
Sure.
The abuser. Okay, the person doing the abuse. Can't speak for everyone, but I would assume that the abuser knows that what they're doing is wrong. That might be something that they perceive it as like they're getting, like they enjoy it, okay? So like, but they still know that that is wrong because it's wrong, right? It's like Jeffrey Dahmer. He knew what he was doing was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He knew
But
murder was
Ashley,
wrong.
what did
Like,
Ashley
murder is
say
wrong.
about that?
She had compassion and empathy for him.
I mean, again, I'm not trying to be
We don't have to go there.
compassionate. We don't have to. I'm just saying, like,
We ain't going there, but that's what
working-
she said.
working with one of my clients that I work with, they're in the mental health field, and the more and more that longer I've worked with them, the more complex being a victim is. I say victim of a crime, but also when you're also there is more information that leads up, like we talked about circumstances for earlier. I'm losing my like words because I'm very nervous, but like
Don't be nervous.
You're doing great. Sweet.
there is really harsh, horrible things in some of these backstories for some of these people that society says are awful, and and that doesn't take away from how awful what their actions were. And I think we hope to like learn and intervene earlier when we can, but that is, both of those can be true at the same time, is what I'm trying to say. Like, and it's not just, oh man, they were born evil and they're just doing evil shit,
no,
you know? So like, I'm just trying to say, like, the circumstances also can impact the bad person.
You can have empathy. Yeah, you can have empathy for the way that they were raised or the way that they grew up, right?
Sure.
Like John Wayne Gacy? No, the co-ed killer, right? The co-ed killer, his mom locked him in the basement and made him sleep on the basement floor, right? Like she treated him like garbage, and that's horrible, right? But then you see how, and it's the system that's broken because the system didn't step in and get him help, but they did try to help him, and he outsmarted them. So it's like Bundy. I mean, there's
a lot.
Look, I'm a true crime series. I watch it all. It's my favorite thing to watch on TV. So I mean, your girl goes to sleep with disappeared. So.
My best friend in grade school was the most normal girl ever. Her parents were so nice. She had a nice house. But she murdered another girl when we were in high school.
Yeah.
So
I had friends, 2 girls that went to my middle school, 6th and 8th grade, and they murdered their mother because their mother was going to send them away to live with their dad or a boarding, like the oldest was going to a boarding school and the other one, I can't remember what it all was, but they completely murdered their mom. And they were just, well, the older sister wasn't normal, but the younger one was.
Yeah, I guess like what her saying that that she agrees that abuse is wrong, but other people might not. Like, it's wrong even if you don't see it as wrong. Like harming someone else, messing with their human rights, like negatively, like anything like that's wrong. Harming someone else is wrong, and even if you don't agree with that, that's not taken into account, because that's like, in that situation, that broad situation, like your perspective is huge. And so I just don't want anyone in the chat to listen to this and listen to Ashley and say, well, oh my gosh, what do you mean abuse is neutral? It's not. Abuse is wrong. Harming someone else is wrong. Is wrong.
Yeah.
So.
Knowing that is my choice, not something I was forced to think and believe, right? Because then you're more empowered. You can make more of those decisions when you start becoming one with your own internal knowing and questioning some of your thoughts and getting, really clear on, instead of this is this, I'm thinking this is this. It's a subtle shift, but really powerful. So they say that life is 10% what happens to you and 90% the way that you respond to it.
Who is they?
Right? But
Who's
I
they?
think we have been living the opposite.
I think that was like Michael Jordan or something.
Life is 90% what happens to us and 10% our reaction. But I think we've had it backwards. Because if you got passed over for a promotion and you think, oh God, I suck, I'll never make it, then that is how you show up in the world, right? You think that, you feel dejected, you feel defeated and insecure, and so then you don't pull up your seat at the table or throw your hat in the ring for the next opportunity. If you think, I could never stick to a diet, I always quit. Oh, I'm just supposed to be fat, right? Then
She just at the very beginning of the podcast was talking about the negative impact of the diet industry on the world and people. And then she's using an example about using it as how the mindset makes you ruin your diet. I mean, it's just, God dang it.
And this is why I think Ashlie does not remember anything she says in these podcast episodes. None of it. It's just whoop.
Melissa just quoted Glennon Doyle, Becoming One with Your Own Internal Knowing. Today in her stories, Ashlie shared her favorite personal development book, Untamed by Glennon Doyle.
Yeah.
Shocked.
Man. Okay.
Learn to not show up for you. You learn that you can't do things you set your mind to, that you can't do hard things. You think that you are the problem.
Glennon Doyle.
And then the next time that you set a goal in your life, whether it's physical or anything, and then it gets the least bit hard, you're going to quit because, quote unquote, that's just what you do, right?
It's so much more complicated than that. And again, it's so much more complicated when you're talking about body image or even eating or giving your body like nutrients
or training for a marathon.
Yeah. Dang.
Ashlie.
Okay, so this I'm going to read about your belief system because I think that this is important. Everyone has a belief system that drives their behavior. To be successful, we should understand the major beliefs that influence our work. If we believe that equity markets are efficient for blah, blah, that's stupid. Our beliefs are not always at the forefront of our subconscious. That is what makes them challenging. We are perplexed when asked outright about our beliefs operating system. It is always running in the background like Windows on a PC, but we don't actively acknowledge it. So the reason I think this is important is because you might have these conscious thoughts, but there are a lot of subconscious thoughts that you cannot rewire on your own in this capacity. And I can tell you, I've been going through something called Psyche, which is a treatment that helps to rewire your subconscious mind. And I've been doing that with a therapist. And so the point is, what I'm trying to say is that there are actual therapies that you can go through. There's EMDR. There are actual therapeutic things. And Ashlie talked about that on her stories today, EMDR. But sometimes your subconscious is protecting and managing, and you have stress responses that are happening. So yeah, it's very easy to say your conscious mind, but there are other things happening.
Percent of the time, if we are feeling unsatisfied or unfulfilled in our life, it is because of the thoughts that we are thinking. And I want to be clear, this doesn't mean that you will never feel uncomfortable thoughts again, because sometimes what we need to feel and what we would choose to feel is pain, grief, anger, sadness, right? This podcast and insourcing is not about feeling just only positive and happy and fun feeling emotions all the time. It's about feeling all of it, the whole human experience, and understanding that you're not doing anything wrong when you're going through the hard stuff, right? But a lot of times we are stuck feeling hard stuff because of the thoughts that we're thinking that are totally optional, that we wouldn't be thinking if we were consciously aware of them, right? Like one of the things that I used to think, one of my stories used to be basically that I was a piece of shit and I made the world worse being in it. That's not something I want to continue believing. That does not serve me. And this shows up in so many ways where it does serve me now, where I can look and be like, is this true? Or is this a story I'm telling myself? And do I want to continue believing this story? Right? I spent the first 34-ish years of my life believing that the most important parts of my life were the opinions that other people had of it. I dreamed that I would have a job people would approve of, maybe be envious of. I spent all of my life looking for a mate that would choose me, right? I was just like constantly seeking someone that said, you are worthy of being loved. I hustled for my worthiness, thinking that my success is what made me lovable and likable and
Is she reading from a script for this podcast?
Yes.
Okay.
Impressive. I spent almost every night in high school and college watching Sports Center so I could be a guy's girl. And I'm not saying I didn't enjoy Sports Center, but I didn't do it because I enjoyed Sports Center. I did it because I thought it would make me cool. I bought the house that we could barely afford because I thought it would impress my friends. I hid my depression because I was afraid of what people would think. I was ashamed.
Okay, I'm sorry. I can't get over the fact I knew she sounded very like that she just had a very long stream of thought the first time I listened to this. So she had a script and nobody like looked over it and said like this is pretty problematic, or she didn't let anyone read it.
Ashley
I didn't
doesn't
let
ask.
anybody read it.
Yeah, she doesn't.
She just
In
does
my
shit.
opinion, she doesn't ask permission. And uh,
Yeah, no,
And-
she's got nobody proofreading that or anything.
And her editor isn't gonna tell her no because she's paying him.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean the sound people I've worked with in the industry, they're not unless you tell them to take things out, they're just looking for sound quality and
Yep.
you know, the intro and the outro, but like I don't know. It's fine. It's fine.
That's what I was gonna say. All of these things would be great for her to work through in therapy.
Sure.
Like these are all talking points you can talk to your therapist about.
Yeah. She said she found a therapist she likes, but it sounds more like she's going and working out some of these podcast ideas in therapy, and then she's resharing and regurgitating her understanding of what she's getting from
Ashley
her.
said last week or a few weeks ago that she's never been in therapy before. She's finally found a therapist.
hard things. You think
And then, so she says, I finally found a therapist. I've been waiting for this person or whatever, right?
Yeah.
She said she's never been in therapy. And then on her Q&A today, she said she's been in therapy throughout her life.
Yes, she's been amazing. I've done lots of therapy over the years, and it is worth shopping around until you find the right fit for you. I got lucky finding her on a Google search. I chose her because she is a life coach and clinical therapist who does EMDR therapy. She had a wait list when I reached out, and she was worth the wait. That was in her stories today.
Yeah, but I wish I screen recorded. Maybe somebody did. But before her first session, she was like, I haven't been in therapy. And I was like, that's incredible, because if her story is about having suicidal thoughts and all of that, therapy.
She
Like,
had tried
therapy.
a
She
therapist
didn't
at
have
the
access to
beginning.
therapy.
She tried a therapist at the beginning of the year, and she fired them because it was over virtual, and she couldn't get over the laundry in the background.
Oh,
Yeah,
That was
I
the
remember
beginning of
that
the year.
story. Yep.
But yeah, I understand some people don't have access to therapy in the capacity where but she can, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yep. I agree.
of my authority. I chose the job that I thought others would envy. I lived well outside my means and accrued thousands in credit card debt just to keep up with the Joneses. So no one thought, oh, Ashley's barely making it. I binged and restricted for years, thinking that if I just made myself small enough, that I would finally be worthy of taking up space. And after all of that, after all the years of showing the world the version of me I thought it wanted me to be, I was depressed. I was more than depressed. I was suicidal. I hated myself. But the irony is, I didn't even know who I was. Like, I hated myself, and I didn't even know who myself was enough to hate. I just knew I didn't like any version of me. I showed the world a watered down version of me, which also meant when people complimented me, I didn't believe them because they didn't know who I really was. And when people didn't like me, I agreed. I'm like, that sounds about right. That's how I feel about me too, right? I didn't know me because I was so concerned what other people thought of me, that that's the person that I was. I only knew the version of me that the world had sort of trained me was right. I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know what my hobbies were. I didn't know where I wanted to go with my life. I mean, it was freaking scary when
I would say, and I'm just going to say this. I'm not saying like, oh my gosh, Ashley, I don't like what you wear, or I don't like how you speak, like how you say words, or, you know, your home decor choices. I mostly critique Ashley for the diet culture shit she spews and the not giving people what they paid for, like the deceptive business practices. And
Yep.
it's not about like her preferences on the inside, it's how she's behaving in some situations. So, and again, there's some situations where you need to stop your behavior even if you're not fully like fixed in terms of there's some regulation that needs to happen. Like if you're harming people, stopping is really important, and it doesn't mean like you need to figure out who you are first before you can say like, oh, I am gonna stop stealing money from people, or I am going to stop. Um, I don't know what the list of like things that you can get in really big trouble for, like fraud and all that other stuff. But I don't know. I'm not. I think that Ashlie is behaving sometimes in a way that we're coming for her and like the person she's trying to be, and it's like I'm just here because you're just using deceptive business and recruiting practices, and you're, in my opinion, harming people like with diet culture. And I don't know. I don't know what y'all think about that, but
I wonder if she's seen my last reel I did on her.
I haven't watched it yet. I can't wait. Can't wait to see it.
I think that we might not be coming for her that way. I think that there are people who are very unkind to her.
Sure.
There are people who really prey on every single thing that she does and speak very negatively of her, and that must be really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I
agree.
think
Yeah.
that I'm proud of you guys for really sticking to the message, because I mean, one person can think that Ashlie is annoying and the other person can think that she's endearing, and that's really none of her business, and
Yeah.
it's not the internet's business either.
Right.
So if you keep it as we're pointing out things that are of harm or misinformation or deceptive, I think that that's important.
And me and
And
Cheryl
hurtful.
talked about
Yeah.
Cheryl, you and I talked about that on my episode of the podcast, how we focus on
Yeah.
the behavior.
Behavior, not the person.
Not the person.
Behavior.
Because once we resort to like ad hominem attack sort of things, it just completely, it cancels out everything the message that we're actually trying to get across, which is pointing out the behaviors, deceptive behaviors that are learned and how it's learned, and just bringing out the facts with a little snark thrown in too, of course, but it's about behaviors and educating on that and helping people see through all of the bullshit and the smoke they're trying to blow up your asses to get you to join their teams. So
yeah, and my hope is like, if you're on Ashlie or Emily or any these bigger teams and you're watching this stream, gosh, I hope that maybe you take some of this to heart, or I don't know, in a miraculous situation, maybe someone sends this video for Ashlie to watch, but it's not. Our hope is like for limited change behavior. We're not saying Ashlie, like, if it's your jam to like, I'm not talking about what you like or very surface level things. I'm not talking, again, I know I'm reiterating this, but it's like, I'm not trying to not make you Ashlie. I'm just saying, like, please stop lying to people. Please stop using deception to recruit. Please stop participating in diet culture, and that's harming people at a very large scale, in my opinion. Please stop. And that, I don't know. It's just,
I think that
is she ever gonna listen? I don't know.
I think that I'm like, no. I'm sorry. I think that, like, I want to make it a point about like, we didn't just listen, or if we still have more left, that's okay too. But we didn't just listen to Ashlie's podcast to make fun of it, right? Like to say,
Sure.
oh, look at Ashlie basically messing up again.
The name.
The name. But the thing is that, like, let's say Ashlie, I mean, because everybody can have a podcast. I mean, you can, right? All you have to do is download an app and everybody can have a podcast. But The difference between a good podcast and a bad podcast is when you're actually talking about things that you've went through and how you have healed, but also letting people know that just because this helped me doesn't necessarily mean it's going to help you, right?
Yep.
The way that Ashlie comes across in her podcast is that this is how it should be, this is how it works, and I'm telling you what to do. And I'm demeaning everything that you've ever thought about your life, whether if you went through a miscarriage or anything, right? And that's bullcrap, right? She can talk about, she's been through those things. So it's like, why can't you make it, this is how I healed through it, right? Like, and then say in the same instance, I mean, where's the trigger warnings? Where's the please go seek professional help if you're really going through these things? That's the problem. This is hurtful to people.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
Decided that I was going to let go of all of the rules and create a new identity.
Yeah,
and I didn't do this.
We can save the rest. There's about 7 minutes left, and I can put it on 1.25 speed. Let me see if I can speed it up. Hold on. Here we go. 1.2.
I didn't do it overnight. I dipped my toe in the pond. Brené Brown and her work has been some of the most impactful for me. So one of the first personal development books that I remember reading is The Power of Vulnerability, or actually listening to. It's a presentation, so you can't read it. But The Power of Vulnerability is a 6-part presentation. And in it, she asked the audience, how many of you, when you feel like you're, showing up brave and showing your vulnerable side and you're scared to say something, how many of you, when you share those things, think it makes you weak? And everyone's hands go up. And she said, okay. And how many of you, when someone else shares their vulnerability with you, when they share things that they're afraid, to shine the light on, how many of you think that of them as brave? And everyone's hands go up. And she was like, that's the thing, right? We all have skeletons in our closet. We all have things that we carry shame over. And there's nothing that you could carry that is so awful and disgusting and, mortifying that it's going to send people running. And more than that you won't be met with a chorus of people saying, me too. And I remember at the time feeling, because I was just coming out of the suicidal phase of my depression and really the deep, deep depths. And I was terrified to share that because I thought, here I am. It was at the beginning of, my public journey when I started sharing multiple times a day. And I thought, here I am trying to build this business, get people to trust me. And then they're going to learn that I'm struggling with my mental health. Certainly, they're not going to take me seriously after that. And so I was terrified to share that. But I knew that I had to, because I am nothing if not coachable. If someone that is living the kind of life that I want to be living tells me to do something, I'm going to do it. And Brené Brown showed up with a sense of freedom and ease. It made so much sense. I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to share. And then I started sharing, that I liked the color pink. And I was afraid of that because I thought I was a girly girl. I used to be so ashamed of the volume of my voice. And I started just allowing people to think I was loud. It started with just little things, and then it moved into big things. And what I learned about all of them, all of these things that I hated about myself, are the things that made me unique and special. And if I didn't reject them, then I didn't tolerate hanging out with other people who rejected them.
A part of it, I'm sad that she felt that like her voice was too loud and she didn't like that about herself. I genuinely no one should feel like parts of who they are inherently grading on everyone and that you hate that about yourself. I feel a sense of compassion towards her, and I'm glad that she, in some ways, started to just be herself and get people to like those parts. Because, I'm not here to say oh my gosh, I can't stand Ashlie. I hope she doesn't have any friends. That's not the case. Again, it's a limited little sliver of please stop harming people. Please stop sharing information that's wrong and hurtful. And I'm glad she's worked through some of this stuff that she's talking about, but she's mixing it in with some of these other bigger things that's holy shit.
Well, here, what Jen stated at the beginning of this was that a life coach, the boundary that they are allowed, there's no regulatory board, but allowed to speak in, is in the tense of future. So future tense. A therapist, past tense. So what Ashlie is doing is sharing her experience. She's a platform to do that. She's allowed to do that. Okay. the problem that I run into when listening to this is she continues to bring the tense to the past, where a life coach should be saying to you, there's a place in this world for life coaches, right? Like, they're
Sure.
great. Okay. So what she could be doing is talking about how, okay, let's talk about how we're going to move forward with your goals, right? Like, let's talk about how we're going to take your current life, formulate goals, and we're going to move forward to that. But what she's doing, and fine, she's setting up the podcast, she's setting up the vibe fun. But if you listen to the future, why I wanted to talk about this is because I'm going to talk to you about like your childhood and help you to rewire the foundation. That is a therapist job, not a life coach job.
Yep. That's a very good thing to keep reiterating here is, and again, if you're watching this in the future, replay crew, you're incredible. That again, life coach stuff in the future, therapist stuff in the past. And that's a good, like, at least it's a good filter to say, oh my gosh, I have a little bit of like squirrely feelings about like, should we be talking about this? That's a good like litmus test, at least, to get on the right track. So
Well, and Amy said, because Amy went through a life coach school, and what she said was that what they learned in life coach school was that if you are speaking with someone and they're talking about something that was out of your scope of practice, that they would refer them. They would say, like, you should be working with a therapist on this, but what I can do is this.
Yeah.
With you. Have that very clear boundary. So what I would ask of Ashlie is, if you in the future are going to put disclaimers and things, I would hope that you would have someone to refer people out to if they come to you and they say, hey, I was really triggered in your episode and I'm realizing that I have childhood trauma that I haven't worked through. I hope that she has resources to send to people that she is not compensated for. I think that's important. It doesn't turn into another code that she sends out for a therapist, then she's getting a kickback for it, because that is really icky.
Yep. Agree.
Yeah.
These things that I thought made me never good enough made me exactly enough. And of course, not for everyone, right? There are still people who, when I decided to show up, I lost a ton of people, but I lost the right people, because people that didn't like me, that didn't appreciate me, they opted out. And that was good for me. I didn't want people around me anymore who didn't like me for me. And I was finally showing up as me. And I knew if everyone else left, at least I'd still have me. And that was terrifying. And at the same time, incredibly freeing. And what I found is that the people that stayed, or the new people that came into my life, loved me. And I also loved me. I no longer needed the world to like and approve of me. I just needed to like and approve of me. And so I got busy exploring my desires and dreams and my wants and my no ways, my oh hell yeah, and my oh, fuck no, man. I learned that there is no better expert out there on what I want and need than me. And that is the power of insourcing. The definition of insourcing is to use one's own personnel or resources to accomplish a task that was previously outsourced. We have outsourced so much of our lives,
in a
our
business,
thoughts,
in
our
a
dreams,
business,
our choices.
In a business is a business. Oh my god. Oh my gosh. Do you think that's a good place to stop, since with the definition for tonight?
Yeah.
Or oh, y'all, I don't even know what to say.
Amber, how are those?
Holy, they look delicious.
You like my cheese pie?
Yeah,
Heck yeah.
I'm very envious.
So good.
I would love a segment, Amber, of you reacting to, well, I guess you're blocked from Autumn, but you could download it and do side by side of Autumn's, like, I don't know, her Shakeology stuff, and you just like cooking a full delicious dessert. You know, I would love that.
I would. I will absolutely do that, because I've thought of doing that before. Like, I have so many recipes from my mother-in-law's like recipe, like family recipes that have been passed down for decades. Oh crap, decades and decades. I have to pick some, and a lot of it is like baked goods.
Heck yeah.
And I really succeed at like baked good things. But yeah,
That's
Yep.
incredible.
It's all the good snacks.
Yep. Amy is the one who has the life
Yes.
coach certification. And she was the one that, was giving us the information about the before and the after in terms of like what you can do and then who you need to refer and stuff like that. So and there's ethical life coaches out there who have integrity, who know the constraints of what they can do, and they operate within those boundaries. So it's not us trying to be like, oh my gosh, life coaches are the worst. No, we just need to know like how to operate, and also as the consumer, if you're looking for someone to receive help from, like, you understanding what they can and can't say too, so you don't get twisted in the process, because that can happen if someone in that position is operating out of their boundaries. So well, that's an hour and 51 minutes snark, kind of a somber snark for day 3 of 12 days of Snarkmas. We have more maybe more lighthearted snarks coming for the rest of the days, and maybe Emma can join us again. This is our little baby request, but don't want to cross any boundaries, but you're always welcome.
Mhm.
Loved your input.
Guys.
It was incredible, and yeah, I don't know. I'm just so happy to get to be on these streams with everybody, and that we get to do this and try to start increasing like the reach of addressing things without the ad hominem, which sometimes happens in these commentary videos, and not in these ones, but in commentary videos, and hopefully it's gonna continue to be able to provide that for everybody who watches these. So
Mhm.
Yeah,
day 3.
a good point to that we didn't talk necessarily about is that life coaching is not regulated. So
Good
there's not
point.
necessarily somewhere we can go report things about what's being said, and that's also, and that's a problematic in itself. But you
Yeah.
just pay someone to keep you valid.
And if y'all need the coloring page for day 3, it's on my my page.
Oh,
You can
look
color
how
it on
good
an
that
iPad.
is.
Easy, that's
You can
good.
It
you can drag and
is.
drop the colors on Procreate. That's how the file's set up. So if you just want to have a coloring moment or a drag and drop moment, you could do that on your tablet. So, or print it out. It's on my bio. So yeah. Thanks everybody,
Thanks,
and we will
everyone.
catch you on the next live stream.
Bye.